Welcome back to day 2 of the mini course about overcoming pain and getting back to what you love. Today, we're going to talk about pain and trying to understand pain a little bit more, try to change our relationship to pain. All right. So here's what we're going to cover. First, we're going to cover what exactly is pain. We're going to talk about the pain cycle. When do we experience pain? Why? And how do we manage it? How do we break that cycle? How do we get out of pain and get back to what is possible? So first off, what exactly is pain, right? When we think about it, we've all had some sort of pain at some point. We've all twisted an ankle, sprained something, broken something, car accidents, it could be minor, it could be major. Anytime we get pain, a lot of times we associate pain with damage. We're hurt, something's broken, something needs fixed. But that's not always the case. A lot of times we just have pain and there's actually no damage at all. Pain can actually be a lot more complex than just simply, am I hurt and damaged, or is it just something I'm feeling? So, what exactly is pain? Pain, just think of it as an alarm system, right? We all have alarm systems on our houses, our cars. There's always, something that's giving you an alert. So, pain is just an alert. It's trying to signal you of potential injury or potential tissue damage to your body. And that pain, again, may not mean it should be damaged. I think of a soccer player. They're running around, they get tackled, they fall down, they writhe around on the ground like their leg just fell off. But then, 2 seconds later, they're up running. Just because it looks like they were hurt, looked like they're fractured a leg, but really is more of a show, is a little bit more of an exaggeration. And that's what happens sometimes with our pain. But with that said, when we start feeling something or we have that perception that something could be wrong, our body's going to interpret it that way. And it's going to go into that protection mode. And that's what takes us to the pain cycle. So in this pain cycle here, starting out at the very top here, where we got an acute injury. When we have the injury, what have we always been told? Rest, ice, compression, elevation. In a future webinar, we'll actually talk about why that's not the best anymore. But you get an injury, you restrict your movement, right? Whether it's a cast, crutches, a boot, we stop moving that area for a while. When we stop moving, that decreases circulation to the area. Now the area is not getting nutrition. That puts more pressure on our nervous system, making things irritable. They're not getting enough oxygen. They're not getting enough nutrients, which keeps going to causing inhibition of our muscles down here. When our muscles get weak and inhibited, they also get short. They get tight. One reason, we get upper trap tightness or neck pain or, back pain. The muscles are trying to hold your body together because they're not strong enough to do it anymore. So they kind of shorten down, kind of like some tight ropes. And then that can lead to poor posture. Something hurts, gravity kind of crushes us. We kind of give into it. And that, just as one example, could make then poor sleep. All this can add up to increased anxiety and depression and just other psychological issues, thinking I'm hurt, I'm broken, I'm damaged. And then that leads back to the top here, back to chronic pain. So you can start with an acute injury. You go through this whole cycle, and if you don't break out of it, you can end up with pain that's lingering longer than it should. So when do we experience pain? So like I said, pain is an alarm system. And everywhere in your body, you have sensors. There's a handful of sensors out there. One's for pressure, one's for sharp, one's for hot, cold. You name it. Touch yourself with anything. There's a nerve that's giving your nervous system that feedback. It sends it up your spinal cord, up to your brain. Your brain gets this just a signal, and then it's trying to just figure out, what's the signal mean? Is this good, bad, indifferent? Your brain's asking, have I been here before? Is something twisted? Is there bleeding? It's trying to take in all this information and make a determination of whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. And then that's going to have a bodily response, whether it's protecting, whether that's, oh, no big deal, and you just move on. So there's a lot of layers to kind of what that pain's coming from. So when do we experience pain? Kind of like we said, when your body or your brain perceives a threat, whether it be you just twisted your knee, or maybe you had to fall down some stairs. Your brain is going to You're going to have that impact. You're going to feel that pain in that area. And you're going to sit there for a second and be like, okay, that hurt. Well, what's going on? You're going to start interpreting it and analyzing. Am I hurt? Am I broken? Am I damaged? Or is it just an overstimulation of my nervous system? And then as it's perceiving that threat, sometimes it can get oversensitive. This is going to be more in that chronic pain syndrome. So think about, maybe when you burn some toast and all of a sudden the smoke alarm goes off, but the toast was barely burnt, but just a little smoke came up and that overly sensitive alarm in your house goes off, thinking there's a 5 alarm fire in your house. Or even think about a car alarm. I'm sure we've all walked past a car that has a car alarm and you like bump it or you rev your engine and it sends that car alarm off. It's too sensitive. And that's what happens to our body. Sometimes our nervous system is just too sensitive and you get lightly brushed or you sit down too hard or you're standing too long and your body's interpreting this as a threat and this hurts. Something's wrong when really it shouldn't be doing that. And then this pain can persist for many factors. I have them listed here. Could be things. Past experience is a big one. Think about the way you grew up when you fell down, scraped your knee. Did mom and dad pick you up and coddle you and say, "Oh, it's okay," or they say, "Put some dirt on it, you'll get over it." All that's going to play into how you view pain now. Your environment's going to play into it. Your lifestyles, which we'll talk about that in an upcoming mini course day coming up. And then stress. All these factors play into the way your body interprets what's happening to it. Again, so why do we experience pain? Kind of touched on this a little bit, but it's protection. Your body's not trying to do anything unkind. It's there for self-preservation. You touch a hot stove, you feel that pain, you pull off quickly. It's there to protect us. You step on a sharp nail, you recoil out of protection, right? You don't just want to keep holding that hand on there. You don't want to keep walking with that nail in your foot or a rock in your shoe. You want to pull that out before it creates damage. So pain, it's a good thing. It's an alarm system. It's trying to communicate to your body, hey, something's not quite right. Go check it out. But the problem is when we get stuck in that situation, where we kind of get into that stuck in that protection mode, where pain is occurring long after healing. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks for your body to heal. After that, it should be pretty well healed. Pain should be better. Your motion should be better. Strength should be better. Your function should be better. And if it's not, then you're kind of stuck probably in that chronic pain syndrome and you usually need help getting out of it because your body's still interpreting those signals as dangerous, even when they're not. So how can we better manage the pain? How the best way is to calm the alarm system. We got to figure out a way to reset the alarm system, which is essentially trying to break that cycle, right? The pain cycle. So right away, a couple things you can do is just understand it better. Change your relationship with pain. And as you understand it more, realize it's not necessarily something to be afraid of, and it's just trying to interpret something that's happening in your body. It can take some of that fear and anxiety away of thinking, oh, I'm hurt, I'm broken, I'm damaged. The next step, trying to figure out a way to calm the nervous system. Some ways to do that: deep breathing, some box breathing, mindfulness, sleep, movement. This will be on a future mini course we'll talk about here, but just movement's medicine. You got to get moving. But then usually how much? So that'll be something we'll dive into in a future time. Cold and heat. Usually cold initially to help with pain. Heat's kind of good later on to help increase blood flow and get things moving better. And then just setting goals. Focus on what you can. Don't focus on what you can't. So many times we get focused on what I'm not able to do, but you should celebrate the wins of what you are able to do and then just keep trying to improve those over time and celebrate those little wins. Just cover a myth. It's kind of hitting the nail a few times here, but I've seen so many clients that come in when they're in pain. They're discouraged, they're fearful, they don't want to move. They think I'm going to hurt them. They think movement's going to hurt them. They think they're going to hurt them. But pain does not necessarily mean damage. And they've done a number of studies that highlight this, where it took hundreds of people to some MRIs on their backs. And then they gave all these MRI reports to some doctors and said, hey, I want you to predict who's in pain and where their pain is. The doctors couldn't do it. They could not reliably predict where pain would be based on the imaging alone. It's a combination of knowing history, where's the pain, going into those imaging results, and then using those to help correlate and help with the treatment plan and treatment diagnosis. But just based on imaging alone, you can't make a diagnosis. So something I want you all to understand is like you're not your X-ray, you are not your MRI. That don't let that define you. Don't let that predict your future. Don't let that confine you. You're more than just a diagnosis. That's just a word just that's trying to keep all your symptoms in one little definition, but you're more than that. So don't be defined by that. Know that you can break out of that. Okay. So, trying to wrap up, just a couple action steps you can start doing and thinking about just to help better understand your pain and when it's showing up. So, the first question, when does your pain show up? Is it after you're sitting, standing, walking? When's it there? And just make some notes of that. What makes it better? Okay. So, after you're standing too long, what makes it better? Probably sitting. Maybe there's a certain stretch, maybe there's a certain movement. When your hip hurts, what makes it better? A certain stretch, certain movement, applying something to it, medication. What makes it, what helps? What makes it worse? And then as you start to see these patterns emerge, you can start managing your symptoms better and manage your body better because you're going to know what's irritating it and what's not irritating it. So then you can move on and come up with a plan better. And then using someone like myself or a doctor or a therapist or, fill in the blank, they can help partner with you to help you further along, come up with a good treatment plan to get you out of that pain. All right. So that concludes most of day 2. What I got left is going back through a little bit more of that movement screen. We'll review a few things we did from day 1 and then build on it just a little bit. So I'm going to pause this for a second and I'll show up in a better location doing a few movements with you in just a second. All right, so here's the outline of the movements we're going to go back over. We're going to look at the march again, do a little bit of that forward bend, rotation, talk about the breathing again. Then we're going to add in doing a couple isometrics to get a few muscles going. Okay, so that said, let me stop sharing. All right, so the first thing I want to review with the movement screen is just kind of doing that march again. Okay, so just do like 5 marches, just kind of sit there, maybe go high knees, get those arms going. Once you get 5 of them, then just kind of stop, settle in, shake the arms out, take a deep breath, breathe out, and then just observe your body again. See if it feels any different than it did yesterday. Look down at our feet, start there. How are our feet? They turned out, they turned in, feet, on one foot more than the other, is one foot in front of the other. Just kind of see how those feet are looking. Are they looking more lined up than last time? You're thinking about it a little bit more though. Okay, so just kind of see how that feels. How's it feel through your back? Do you feel like you're kind of slouching? Do you feel like you're upright? Feel like you're holding yourself together? Feel like your head's coming forward? Feel like just kind of see. Feel like your butt's out. Think you're tucking it forward. Knees are all the way straight, or it's a little bit flexed, or one flexed. So lots of different things you could be feeling. Just kind of make a mental note and see how these change over time. All right, next let's do that forward bend test. You go feet together, keep the knees straight the whole time as you come down. And just see what you feel. It's probably not going to feel too much different than last time because we haven't really done a whole lot yet, but just see what you feel. Is it more just hamstrings? Is that causing pain in your back or your hip? Is there pain in your ankle? All you're going to start leading clues again to what is the root cause of your pain that we'll keep getting towards. Next, let's recheck that rotation. Again, hands will kind of be across your chest. Rotate as far as you can. As you do that each way, make a note. What do you feel? What's the ease of movement? Can you get all the way through? Or does it feel like one side is just stiffer and you're just hitting a wall and you can't go any further? And the other side's a lot more free. A lot of times our bodies don't rotate much. We live in this direction and we don't rotate enough in our daily life. Sometimes fixing rotation of our core and our hips, that helps everything. So what's that feel like? All right, next let's talk about that low back breathing again. So I'll do a quick little demo and then we'll do a few muscle activations in that position. All right, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna lay on your back. Feet here. If you can get a chair and have your legs resting up on a chair, even better, especially if you have some back issues. Gets everything lined up a little bit better. Okay. Otherwise, just laying here like this. Eventually, doing this when you're sitting up would be ideal as well. So, as you're here, what you're going to do, just lay, empty your breath out. Bring your ribs down, tighten your core, empty everything out. Once you feel you're completely empty, get more air out by breathing out 2 more times, going tight, tighter. Okay. Keep that tight. You should feel pretty rock hearted here. And then keep that snug as you breathe in. As you breathe in, keeping that tension here, as you fill out pressure inside, the pop can example, that pressure should start equalizing into your low back. You should feel it stretching out your low back a little bit, those muscles there a little bit, just feeling pressure back there. Okay. And then we'll breathe out again. Tight, tighter. Keep it tight, breathe in. Okay. Again, doing that 5 minutes a day would be a really good place to start. One, you can start with some mindfulness there of just getting our body to relax and calm down and just decreasing that nervous system, bringing that into more of a neutral, calm position. And that can help regulate your pain. All right. So now that we've got our core tight, we want to keep working on some of our deep core muscles to just reset the way our body's working. So what you're going to do here, grab like a ball, a pillow. I just have a short foam roller, put it between your knees. We're going to combine the two things here. We're going to keep some core tension. It doesn't have to be the full breath. Doesn't have to be a full, tightness. Maybe think 50% of tightness on the core. So you're going to breathe out. As you breathe out, squeeze those knees together. Okay. Squeeze that foam roller. My legs are getting a little shaky here. Just that it's a simple exercise, but squeeze it, hard as you can without causing any pain. Adjust where the pressure's at if it is a little sensitive on a certain area. Okay. So we don't want to just be making pain for the fun of it. You're going to keep that tension squeezed in while you do 2 breath cycles. Okay. So it's going to look like this. Squeeze in. You're going to breathe out. Keep it tight and breathe in. Good. And breathe out. Keep it tight. Breathe in. And then relax. You're going to feel it working those inner thighs. You're going to feel it kind of up by your pubic bone a little bit, right where those muscles attach. All these muscles attached to your core, trying to get, again, that deep core muscle activation. Go through 5 of those, maybe 10 of those. Just take some time, really just trying to start to, get an idea of some of these muscle activations. They're simple, but they're not necessarily easy. Exercise is all about intention. You can take the simplest exercise, but if you do it with a lot of intention, you can make it pretty challenging. Okay. Next thing we want to do is a glute squeeze. Okay. Our glutes, most of us sit for our jobs, or we sit when we're driving, we sit when we get home eating, we sit on the couch. We sit a lot on these muscles. When we inhibit these muscles, guess what? They turn off. They don't work. A lot of times that's why we have hip pain, back pain, knee pain, because these glutes are not doing their job. We turned them off by sitting on them all day. So we got to turn them on. A good way to start is just finding them by doing a glute set. 2 ways. One, you can stay in this hook line position and pretend you got an acorn between your cheeks, and you're going to try to crack that acorn. Okay. So you're going to squeeze as tight as you can. You're going to feel your hips kind of raised to the ceiling a little bit. We're not trying to do a bridge just yet. All we're trying to do is just squeeze. Okay. You're going to keep your butt tight as you breathe in, keeping our core tight. And breathe out. Breathe in, core tight. While keeping your butt squeezed. And relax. I said there's 2 ways. The other way would be letting your legs down. For me, I feel I get a better contraction of my glutes when I'm all the way straight, but that may not feel great on your back or hip or knee. So do whatever feels better to you. Okay. And then you just do that same thing for 2 breath cycles where you breathe all the way out, 2 breaths, keep it tight, breathe in, and then do that.
Keep it tight, breathe in, and then you relax everything. Okay. Time under tension, just getting these muscles to wake up. Again, you might be just watching this. If you are, I encourage you to, lay down and try it. If you haven't done much movement, much exercise in a while, you'll be surprised if you intentionally do these and really get after it, how much this actually fatigues you and how much soreness you'll have tomorrow or even that second day. Okay. Um, so good. So those were all the things I wanted to go over with that today. And then we can stand up and just do another quick reassessment. See if anything feels different. Let's kind of go back and do that march for a second. You're going to feel it in here a little bit. You're going to feel it back here a little bit. Just see what you feel. You feel more even. You feel like maybe you were shifted a little bit. Now you're kind of brought back to center. Do you feel like you were kind of falling forward a little bit, but now you feel like, your butt's underneath you and you're stacked a little bit better. Just observe your body. What do you feel different? Go ahead and touch those toes again. And back up. Keeping the knees straight. What do you feel? Still the hamstring stretch, back pain, hip pain, ankle tightness. Just make note of what you used to feel if it's anything different. And then going back just to that little rotation. Hands across the chest. Rotate as far as you can. What you're looking for here for a normal would be when you're coming all the way around, that opposite shoulder should face you. So if I were to do it this way, this back shoulder, you should be able to see it. That would be a 100% pass. Can you go 100% on one side, but maybe not all the way on the other? Or can you go equal on both? What feels tight? The back? Is it the hip? The ankle? Everything through your whole body is rotating there. So you can kind of figure out what's being the culprit. All right, guys. So that's the end of day 2. I really hope you enjoyed this. I hope you understand pain a little bit more, getting a idea of what is causing your pain, and just having a better understanding of what is behind it. So going back to the action steps. So I want you to think about, when does your pain show up? What makes it better? What makes it worse? Again, we're just trying to figure out where's your pain at? How's it behave? Then we can get better at managing it. And we're going to keep touching on this here in the future sessions. All right, guys, have a good one. We'll catch you on day 3 tomorrow.